that they have with their challenges, with their clients rather. So we are building that center really that gives them a piece of what they are lacking, whether it is a skill through our skilling partners like Qraft Academy, Andrew here, who is leading the team that is helping us do the skilling. And we've run cohorts in the past, 3 of them, under graphics designing, custom PC building, media, technology. So we are really helping them take charge just as they should for the future of work, the present, and to also create that kind of like awareness, that kind of respect. We are engaging different policymakers to also work on formalization of these freelancers. How do we make them formal? Because most companies don't get to work with them even when they have a skill, just because they are informal, and it becomes very tricky for them to, like, onboard them, or even like accept their bids, or even them qualifying for the bids if there are any. So we are working with different partners to help them with formalization, to put them in that place that anyone in the community will respect them and pay them the kind of like money that they want. Yeah. So it's a fireside chat. I think it's something very chill. I don't know, Andrew, if we have all the other people on the call, but I would also want like to not speak on behalf of the freelancers, maybe pick like 1 or 2 or 3 to let us know what their challenges are, and anything, what their experience has been in the meantime as we wait for other people. But Andrew can guide. I don't know if we are ready to start the session, but if we are not, 1 or 2, 3 people from the audience could tell us what their experience is like so far. But I think that's it from me. I'm super excited to learn from you as a person managing this community, to get insights on how you are running, the gig economy from a global perspective. Curious to learn from you. Thank you so much. Over to you, Andrew.
Elina, I hope you are already picking some things.
Yes. No, it's actually, thanks a lot, Sabrina. It was very interesting, but at the same time, quite common. What you just described and explained, we are going through the same issues from the same scenarios, and the mission is very similar. Freelancing is such a new form of employment, even though it was existing for quite a while, right? It just became so popular recently. People realized that it brings so much freedom, and just reading what it says, doesn't matter. Freedom of working the way they want to work and not the way they were taught to be. That work is in a specific form from 9 to 5, for example, or going to the office. But what lacking is on our side as well, exactly the same things as you described: protection, social protection, pensions, security. You are quite on your own in terms of running a business and making sure that financially you're stable. Belgium is a better example because we did have some support during COVID, for example. Lots of entrepreneurs and freelancers got some financial allowances, but it's not the case in other countries, for example. And when it comes, for example, when you have to step up from your work in the situation where you have to give care to your parents, for example, or to your kid, you're quite lost because you are losing a chunk of the business. Therefore, you cannot maybe maintain the same standard of living, and you have to downgrade because part of your time goes to unpaid work, which is taking care of your family. So there are lots of similarities, and I hope we will discuss today some of them. And the reason why I'm started Freelance Business Community is because I myself couldn't find anything out there in Belgium that would help me. I felt quite lonely. I didn't know how to find customers. And most typical question from any freelancer, how to start finding customers. So I started connecting with people, and from there, the community started to grow. And eventually, as I was immersed more and more in financial freelance ecosystem and freelance economy, I started figuring out that actually these are not only freelancers who are in this industry, these are the companies who are supporting freelancers, and now more and more of them are coming. These are communities, not so many of them at the moment, to be honest. And there are people who are hiring freelancers and people who are not hiring freelancers. So it's worth to construct dialogues with all of them so that we can explain how it works, because companies are afraid to work with freelancers. Some of them, there is still stigma in terms of freelancers are kind of secondary. They're not so experienced, for example. This is just someone who decided to do something on the side, which is like old-fashioned way of thinking. Freelancers are not that anymore, and never been probably. These are highly educated professionals. We've done a research recently with 13 other communities, which indicated that 95 or 90-something% of freelancers having high university degree, either master or PhD. This is fantastic, and they bring enormous experience to the table of any company who is hiring them. Because as a freelancer, we also like to compare, like if you spend 1 year freelancing, it is similar to 4 years of employment because you work with different customers, so you pick up much more by doing your freelance work rather than just focusing all your time on one company. So, okay, I'm going too far. I guess we'll discuss all that. But yeah, so from that notion, from the need of connecting with people, a freelance business community started to grow. And I think one of the main initiatives that we have introduced out there to the broader freelance community is Freelance Business Month, which is happening in October every year. And that is how we connect with all the players in the industry and discuss and exchange, similar to what you're doing right now.
Sounds perfect. Sounds perfect.
Yeah, Tongayi, I need to know how to pronounce your names before we even start. Elina, how do you pronounce your second name?
Jutelyte.
Jutelyte.
Yeah.
I was reading Jutelyte, like very many people.
Yeah.
Jutelyte.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I know Belgium speaks 3 languages, Dutch, French, and which one is it? Don't you? Yeah, German.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Tongayi, is that how you read your name?
You got it right the first time, brother. It's Tongayi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just starting. Rina, our product manager, was introducing our site, and Elina was introducing herself and what they do in Belgium with the freelance business community. Maybe we can hand over to you. You introduce yourself, and then we see how it goes. And Afriblocks, of course.
Got you. Thank you so much for the invitation. It's very important work that you guys are doing, creating community and sharing information that might seem light, but is super important as it gets more people into the ecosystem. And most importantly, it brings financial opportunities to, professionals across the continent that might find it difficult to work in more traditional setting in terms of, the job market being low. So yeah, I just wanted, to appreciate you for that. My name is Tongayi Choto. I'm co-founder of Afriblocks, which is a Pan-African freelance talent marketplace. And what we do is we connect remote freelancers, mainly tech developers and designers from across the continent, and connect them with remote jobs from across the world, mainly the US, the UK, and Canada. We are currently active in about 7 African countries with freelancer community, about 20,000 freelancers registered to date. We launched, I'll say we started in March of 2020, just before COVID. I remember when I said, not, this is the official start date. A week later, everyone was told to work from home. There was curfews, which was, I think it was fun for the first 1 week. You don't have to go to work or anything. And then after that, it was like, "Oof, I really need to find some work." And we came at the right time as an opportunity for people to work online, for people to be able to upload their skill sets. I'm a designer, I'm a developer, I'm a UI UX. And at the same period across the world, people were like, no, this is the time for me to start that idea that I've always had about a mobile app, that business that I've always had. There's an opportunity for me to do that. Where do I start? And our marketing literally was, what do you need done? Your idea can change the world. That idea that you're like, that you've been thinking about for the past 4 or 5 years, but you just never had time to do it as a founder, as a full-time mom or dad. Now here is Afriblocks that can help you to do that. So for me, though, my background is I'm a software developer, and I graduated from the University of Zimbabwe, doing computer science and mathematics, way back in, that sounds so long, like 2015. And just after graduation, I was trying to figure out my next steps. That's when I discovered blockchain and Bitcoin, and it was pretty interesting to me. And I got to work in that space for a startup that was based in Washington, DC, and Los Angeles, and San Francisco. And I was, the lead developer and then project manager for that startup. And the project that we built was a money transfer service from sending money using Bitcoin from the US to Zimbabwe. We're the first and I believe the only company to actually get a license to do that from a Federal Reserve Bank. And while I was going around, promoting that service, that's when I'll go to, South by Southwest, to Essence Festival, to PyCon. I was all over, the United States and across the continent promoting that service for people to send money. But as soon as you mention that you're a software developer, the next question is, hey, I actually have an idea. Or I have a friend that's looking for a developer for their app, for their website. And initially I was saying no, because, I was, terribly busy at the time. But then when I come back home, my friends, my colleagues who are way, more experienced developers, way more amazing designers than I was, and than I still am, but just didn't have the same opportunity I had, would ask, can you connect us with remote jobs? We see you in San Francisco at LinkedIn HQ. Can you literally, connect us? And that's when I was like, I know someone that I met who's looking for design work. I know someone that I met who needs a software developer. Let me connect you with them. So that's really how it started. Started with a few of my friends, a WhatsApp group, and after about 3 months, it grew to like 600 people looking for jobs, because people would refer each other, hey, there's this opportunity, there's this opportunity. And fast forward, that's when I, after consulting my fiance, now my wife, like, hey, I'm about to leave this great job to start something that I really see as super important for the continent, super important. Because after researching, I'll see, many people graduate, great degrees, great doctorates, PhDs, but the job opportunities are still low. So how can we use technology to reach out globally? There's now the internet, there's Wi-Fi, the mobile phones. How can you use that technology to be able to get work done, to be able to get paid, and to be able to take care of our families? So that's really how Afriblocks started. We went to work, and we've gone through Techstars Accelerator. They, accepted us, and we got funded, and Google Black Founders Fund as well. And we've been building since. We've been growing. We've been completed over 4,000 jobs to date for around 5,000 clients from across the world. So yeah, that's me. I'll keep talking if you don't stop me. But yeah, that's Afriblocks. That's what we're doing, and that's Tongayi Choto. And I'm happy to share my experience. I'm happy to answer questions around today's topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tongayi. I hope I pronounced it right.
Yes.
Sabrina, when I had already introduced myself, but I'm managing the community for the Freelancers Lounge, where at the moment we have around 800, I guess, plus active members who show up at least like maybe thrice or twice in a month in like our events, and we try to like engage them, and they are very passionate, very talented, so we are doing everything we can to make sure that they are recognized and appreciated just like traditional employers. Yeah, so I don't know, Elina, if you had given the background of your community, if you hadn't exhausted it, because Tongayi has actually given us a clear picture of how it came about. I would also like to hear your story, because we were sort of like doing an introduction, and then we can get into different questions around our communities and how to make them better. Over to you, Elina, as well.
Yeah, thanks. Well, as a matter of fact, by my core business, I'm an event producer. So this is what I do to earn money. And as I mentioned earlier, when I became independent, I wanted to connect with people because I couldn't figure out, and that is the problem for many freelancers, by the way. I'll get back to that in a second. I couldn't figure out how to run a business. Okay, registering is very easy. In Belgium, you just submit the papers in 1 hour, you have your status and you have your number and you can trade already, you can send invoices. But that's not about running business. Registering is just such a simple step. But in fact, how to run a business is a problem for many freelancers, because quite many of you, and if you're starting freelancer, you probably recognize yourself. You're so enthusiastic, you have idea, you get into it. But rarely freelancers think about, okay, do I have a business plan actually? How I'm going to survive for the next 6-9 months? Did I save enough money to support myself and my family? How I'm going to go about customers? How I'm going to position myself even in the market? So all that was not a question for me. Like, I wasn't even thinking. I was lucky at the start to get the first customer. Sorry, the phone's ringing. But then the contract was stopped and I was on the market again. And that is how things became much more difficult. Just hold on a second.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I think, can I be heard? There seems to be a pause. Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah, so I think it's the same really here. There's that kind of need for, human connection with people who are going through exactly what we are going through. And I think for freelancers, we need like so many stakeholders to be able to, become, to be able to be productive, to be able to get results. Recently, I've been making it a point to tell freelancers in our community that it's very important to like also have KPIs and to link these KPIs that they measure success with to, return on investment. I think it makes it like so easy. And I think sometimes freelancers don't have a knowledge about this, how to quantify their success and how to measure their success. So I don't know, for Tongayi and Elina, could you please like share some of the things that you use as your performance indicators so that maybe our freelancers can also like learn from it, because I feel like sometimes they just work like they are just working. Oh, I have this skill and oh, I want to make money out of it, but there's no strategy, there's no system, there's no structure, which I think is very, very problematic. So if you could both share with us, I'll start with Tongayi, share with us some of the structures, some of the processes that you've incorporated in your work to make it easy. We would appreciate that. Yeah.
Sure. So I guess I'll start by mentioning that from my point of view, freelancing is a business, right? So when you are working, when you're talking to clients, when you're spending money on Wi-Fi, on internet, your time, treat it as a business because it is. So what does a business have? And the biggest way to put it is it's a system, right? Um, and that system takes in information, processes it, that is the work, and gives out output, right? So now that output, you should put it back into what? As feedback and put it back into the system. So I say that to mean when you're reaching out to customers, you get responses. Maybe a customer said, I won't be able to proceed with you at this time because I don't fully understand what you're going to offer, or I don't have enough of your portfolio to review for me to make a better decision. Take that as feedback and place it back into the system to say the next customer that I'm going to reach, instead of giving them one example of a flyer that I designed for them to make a decision on their entire company to say, yes, I'm going to hire this designer. Let me give them 10, right? So now if you give them 10 and then the next feedback is, we like your work and would like to proceed. That means you're constantly taking feedback and putting it back into the system, which is your business as a freelancer, to constantly improve. Things are always changing. It's never going to be the same. When you started out, there was no ChatGPT. Right now there is. So when a client, shares a job description, I always recommend to write your cover letter and your response yourself, and then maybe put it into ChatGPT to check for grammatical errors and maybe your tone, but it should be your voice. Most freelancers make that mistake. They take a job description, put it in ChatGPT, they get a response, they share it, they didn't even read it, and now it's going with the response that it starts with the line, certainly I'm going to help you, which is what ChatGPT always does. The first line, and then now we share with it. So that's what I view. If you view it as your business, you'll be able to now start to say, how many clients did I talk to? How many said yes? How many said no? Where are they located? What's the persona of the customer that said yes? And by persona, it means this is, for example, it's if you see that your last 5 customers, I'll give example for our persona. Our current customer is a small business or a startup that has 5 to 10 employees that recently got funded or that is cash flow positive, and that is based in mostly the United States and sometimes the UK. So that's our customer persona. And we've had to figure that out over time, looking back into the information, like how many people have posted a job and how many people ended up being customers, where they based, and would ask them, questions like, what's your budget for this project? And then they would respond, we're looking to have this done by this date for this much. So all of that information, we put it into a system that we have. We have our own backend that we use to categorize and constantly improve, because you then use that same persona when you go out to, say, targeting ads for your business. You're targeting like the person that is bought my services is this kind of person. So now when you go on LinkedIn or Facebook ads or X, Twitter ads, now you know the kind of person to target. You're not just doing it randomly. So that's what I think would be best to always do. Have data points that you check, and that are not necessarily KPIs, because KPIs, sometimes you're at a point where it's not helpful to say I need to have 20 customers this month, but what's the context around the number 20? Are you going to be working 20 jobs? Are they in part, like, so that's why KPIs sometimes need more context as you work around your strategy to reach out to customers. Thanks.
And well, first of all, I'm very sorry for interruption. My father is in the hospital, so we're expecting an important call from a doctor. That's why I disconnected. So I hope you know me for that. But to add on a success and how to measure success, I guess the first thing you have to define for yourself: what is success for you? How does it look like for you? Is it having lots of customers, or is it having recurrent revenue, or is it having enough work and have enough free time at the same time, or is it working only a few days a week and dedicate the rest to your hobbies or whatever? So you have to define how you want to construct your work, because freelancing will allow you to do that. And then along the way you kind of measure that. Is it still according to your plan? Is it how you imagine your work to be or not? Whether it brings you enough satisfaction and financial reward, yes or no? Do you need to change something about it? And maybe the idea of having 20 customers is not your ideal world. Maybe you just want to have one for 6 months, for example, and then another one for 6 months. That would be my preference. For example, I work on a longer projects with one customer, ideally, or 2 max. So you define first how you want this work to look like for you, and then you can measure success. That's how I would put it.
Thank you so much. I think that's insightful enough for the freelancers who are on the call. And I wanted to get more now into like a conversation of, stakeholder involvement, stakeholder engagement in the gig economy. I'm curious to know how the government is engaged in your industry, in your countries. Is the government supportive? Does the system recognize freelancers in your country? And maybe what have you done to like attract the attention of the government to recognize that we are also a formal sector that actually contributes to the growth of the economy of the country? So anything really that responds to that. Over to you. I'll do Tongayi again and then Elina.
All right, I think that's a really important question, and it's tricky at the same time, because when you talk about the government, there are a lot of variables that come with it. For example, we are a startup, so do we work with the information technology ministry, or do we work with the youth ministry, or do we work with the education ministry, or should we even start to work with them? Because from my point of view, it differs from country to country, but policy is where it should start. So policy is, let's talk about, we have freelancers in Kenya, and I remember last year there was a tax that was introduced to tax freelancers more. So that definitely affected their entire ecosystem and their entire pricing. Because if you used to do a logo design for $50, but now you're being taxed 10 to 15%, it's only natural that you also increase your pricing. But then, Kenya or Zimbabwe or Nigeria, it's not, it's part of the world, it's part of the whole globe. And now you're facing, competition from other, locations. There are freelancers from India, from Pakistan, who are already very cheap, or who already offer prices, services at low pricing. So that goes back to if, did the regulator, or should regulators consult, the population or its citizens when making decisions like that. So it goes even to small things like even the cost of internet. Can the information or the government say, let's have affordable internet so that we have more people, give more people ability to work online, and at the end of the day, when payments come, they come to they help the local economy, because you are getting paid for work done outside the country, and in some cases you're actually getting paid in foreign currency, which local governments also need. So all of that is difficult to have one single answer, because again, I believe it starts with policymakers engaging the local builders or the local startups or the freelancers or communities like yourselves, to say, hey, we see you're working with freelancers, and we want to figure out how to help the most, which I think should always be the question when you're engaging on policy, on strategy, on regulation, which is a huge topic. I think it deserves its own day to talk about and navigate on the best way to assist. Yeah.
Yeah, on our side in Europe, well, freelancing is accepted as a workforce, so it's pretty standard and natural. Registering as a freelancer, as I mentioned, is pretty easy. However, we do face some stumbling blocks when it comes to policy making and legislation, because the definition of freelancing, of freelancers, is not 100% clear. We are either put in a box with gig workers, and maybe coming from Africa, for you, it sounds okay. Well, just because like the gig economy is quite rapidly evolving there, and so you technically part of that, because in our perspective, gig worker or platform worker, that's two definitions coming together. But in our side of the world, freelancers acting and looking for customers outside of platforms. It's also, this is coming from our research that we've done when we asked freelancers where they find work. And majority indicated that they find work via personal network, unless rarely they go to platforms. So for that reason, we like to say, okay, maybe we're part of gig economy, but we're just different cohort. We are consultants, we're freelancers, and we're not belong to the group, let's say, just by the difference in the nature of work to Uber drivers, for example, or delivery drivers. Like, we're just doing different thing when both of us are part of platform economy, if you look at it. So that's one of the problems. So we're not having clear definition. At the same time, we've also been put in a box with small businesses. And therefore, that makes it very difficult to actually count the impact of freelancers bringing to economy. And if we don't have these numbers, it's very difficult to pitch for more protection towards freelancers, because we also have some side and downsides. Like I mentioned, the pensions are not the same, and social protection is not the same in some countries. I think you're in a very right path if you collectively start talking about that, because Africa is super huge, right? Each country will have, like in Europe, has its own legislation and its own regulation. But if there would be one precedent set in one of the countries, like, hey, this is what happened when we gave full support to this type of workforce, look what it brings to the community. Because freelancing for governments is a blessing, to be honest. like we don't need to drive to the office, so less traffic, less pollution. We tend to be happier because we like to do what we do, and we're not stressed by corporate politics or whatever, or you know, being in the office every morning. We create jobs ourselves, so less employment, especially in rural areas. This is like, what else can you do but just being a freelancer if you have good internet connection? Not like mine today, much better. So definitely, it's a great opportunity for countries to take advantage of this growing trend. And one of the greatest examples I can bring is actually coming from Uzbekistan, where they realized that a country being in the middle of other like big territories, not having access to the sea where they could trade easily, right? So they decided to invest in the brains of the people and export their freelancers to the world. So they're building specific programs. So the internet connection everywhere is flying. I think it's the best internet connection I've experienced in my life, even in the most remote areas in Uzbekistan. This is just for the purpose that people can find work online via the platforms or whatever. So they making sure that those people getting paid and have work to do in the area which was previously economically very in a bad situation. So there's definitely a huge advantage. They aiming at becoming the Silicon Valley of the region. So who knows, maybe in a couple of years we will hear about Uzbekistan as a Silicon Valley, again focusing on IT professionals, of course. So coming back to Europe, so yeah, this is the big problem of recognizing freelancers, having their own definition as such, and then consequently, you know, adjusting all the policies that is being made for gig workers or for small businesses, which are not relevant for freelancers as such, or not very much applicable, or, you know, burdensome in some case. And for that reason, actually, we're initiating an association that would tackle these issues and address policymakers in European Parliament and Commission just to bring this to light, because so far we've been put in the different boxes and none of them are 100% relevant.
Right. Thank you so much. That's very interesting. I have learned a couple of new things. I did not know that somewhere in the world, gig workers and freelancers are looked at like from a different perspective. So this is very interesting to learn. In Uganda, freelancer, gig worker, it's all the same thing. Yeah. So that was very interesting to learn. And from your discussions, I've learned two things. That one, maybe it's for the government to cope, or maybe it's for the policymakers to pretend that they have included freelancers by putting them in certain boxes that they don't exactly fit in, yet they should be creating like a whole, you know, mechanism and structure for them. For example, Erin mentions that in Belgium, they put freelancers into like the aspect of small businesses, which I find like very problematic. It's the same thing here. When you're engaging legal people, they are telling you that, oh, we can consider freelancers under solo entrepreneurship, solo businesses, but these ones have their own requirements that don't fit into who a freelancer is. And it becomes very hard, even when you're like trying to like access the finance. It becomes problematic because the things they are asking for to like input to get loan that would probably support you, increase your workflow and productivity, the requirements being asked for are requirements that are for businesses or companies. So I'm also curious to know how in your communities it is easy for freelancers to access finance, because they also need it, just like startups, how they go for like investors and whatnot. Yeah, so from the perspective of freelancers, how do they access finance? And then I'll also add another question so that you take all of them at once. The other question that I have is on what do you think is the future of freelancing? What would you say is like success for a freelancer? Because everyone seems to say that for you to say that, oh, now I have grown, I have scaled, I am to turn into an agency, I'm to turn into a business. from your perspectives, do you think that's like the end goal? Like as a freelancer, is the end goal turning into an agency? Is it turning into a business and a company? And then at that point, you can say like, yes, now I'm there. Yeah, so over to you guys. Yeah.
To start on finances, it's difficult. There are some grants that you can apply as a freelancer, but you need to have a certain purpose, not just, I have a grant to open my business. No, this you have to save yourself. You have more chances when you become a small registered business, for example, with a partner or so it's not freelancing anymore. And then, for example, you have a SaaS idea, for example, you want to implement, you need to have a pilot project that you go out and source for funding for that. But that's a typical scenario. But to get a fund for freelance business, just absolutely impossible, because frankly, you don't need to have any, right? If you act as a consultant, what do you need? Okay, you need to have a laptop and internet connection. For that, you can take a bank loan, for example, a business loan that you pay out in some time. So that's also one of the issues that we have included in our public affairs plan for policymakers to ensure that there are like equal rights. If they call us businesses and tax us as businesses, because tax in Belgium is super high, almost up to 50%, depending on how much you're earning, then you should be giving us the same rights and access to grants and funding options. So that's on finances. And the future, and it actually depends, again, well, we discussed success, right? How success looks for you. And the more I speak with freelancers here, the more I realize that not everyone wants to scale. Like running a huge business is not for everyone. And someone is super happy just to have the quality of life that they want to create. And I think that's the beauty of freelancing. If you're interested about the concept of work style, sounds very familiar as work style. In fact, as a word was coined 2 years ago by people in UK, Alex and Lizzie. They run Hawksby. Hawksby is another community. And they have defined work style as something that is happening these days. People create the work style that they want, right? If you're more productive in the morning from 6 to 9, why should you work from 9 to 5? You work where it's comfortable for you. If you have a child, like in my case, I was working in between, the entertainment of my child. When she sleeps, I have some working hours, and in the evening, for example. If you have, I don't know, anything else to do, you better working at night. For example, you have clients somewhere else in the world, and you may wish to work at night. Why not? If you're productive at that time, that's how you do it. So I think the future, a successful future, is not about growing. It's about being comfortable with your life that you construct. Because at the end of the day, what I realized personally as of last year, when I was constantly full in my work, all my thoughts were about work, spending too much time on work and not spending time with my family. And at the end of last year, when I learned that my dad is sick, everything changes. Perspective changes, and then you realize that the most valuable time that you have is with your family and people that you love. So if you're successful in combining that, having good work that brings you money to support you living and your family, and spending time with them without sacrificing this time for your work, then just do it, because that's the most. I mean, you will regret that you haven't done it. That's what I'm trying to say now. And if your ambitious is to grow into agency, then of course you have to do it. You have to find the right partners. You have to act as a businessman. You have to find the ways to get to that point. So whatever you construct for you as your future, the moment you have the vision, you will get there. But the most difficult for people to actually have that vision, to realize where you want to get in 5-10 years, for example. Yeah. Tongayi, I don't know if you will have different opinion on that.
Firstly, I'm so sorry about your dad. Yeah, I think it's difficult, and I just had my daughter is 2 years old. I just had a son who's 4 months, and I agree the perspective or the goals just shift. So everyone has different goals on what they want to achieve and what they call success. You might want to be an agency, you might not. You might want to just have stable income. If you're making maybe 3 or 5,000, the numbers just depend on you as a human being. And I like, the how you expressed it, because at the end of the day we have to realize that we're still human beings, that I always say this, that are just trying to be happy. That's the end goal at the end of the day. Some say that are just trying to make money. I don't think so. I think you're trying to make money because you're trying to be happy. That's what makes you happy. So it really, differs from person to person. On finance is difficult. I don't think there is one region or country that I've seen that has figured it out, because in some cases they classify freelancers as contractors and they are obliged to pay taxes. In some regions, freelancing is not that mainstream yet, so they don't have any regulations on it yet. In some countries, they just classify freelancers as freelancers. So that makes it difficult for you to say to go to your bank and ask for financing. Why? Because you're a freelancer and your income is inconsistent, which most happens. Most likely happens to most freelancers. This month you get 5, next month you get 10, next month you get 1, especially for those one-time jobs. If you are lucky enough to have a contract that's a retainer month to month, that's great. But still, financial institutions, most of them don't have a model per se for a contractor, and let alone a freelancer. They will classify you as high risk. So it's unfortunate. I think it's something that is difficult, which is why, again, some people end up just having a 9 to 5, because and it's some conversations that we don't have around a 9 to 5 is maybe healthcare with it. Maybe it is some other allowances that maybe what you call this in Zimbabwe we call it NASA. It's for retirement, a retirement package. So sometimes as a freelancer you're not protected uh, against that. That is why some countries say, you know what, let's classify freelancers as employees so that we can create some sort of structure for them to pay for a retirement package that they can later take on, or pay for health insurance. So those are countries that have gone way further than for us, like Zimbabwe, for example. And then I'll say the United States is the one that just, as a freelancer, you're taxed. You have to pay tax. You have to, do everything else, that the same thing that you do as when you have on a 9 to 5, you have to do it even as a freelancer. But the upside for other people are, I'm doing this according to my plan and my schedule and my time, and aligning it with my work-life balance. So some people like that. So it's really a matter of what you call this, of preference. But I don't think there's a region that is really figured out, especially finance and how to assist freelancers in the long term. So it's always work in progress. Yeah.
And I just wanted to add on the future, because it's not only numbers, right, that should be in your head. For example, in my case, the reason why I went freelance is because I felt too tight in the corporate structure. And I couldn't, like, I was ambitious. I really want to have a raise, but I felt like nobody's going to give me a raise because of, anyway, it's a long story. And I just was just too tired fighting corporate bureaucracy. And eventually what happened when I went freelance, I could have all the titles I wanted. If a title is important for you, like it was for me at that time many years ago, then you can just create it for yourself. I joined organizations and I've become a president and board member and like whatever. Like it's impossible to progress that quickly from being a freelance or being a like a senior manager to a director position or president position in a short like few years, right? It's just not possible at all. But as a freelancer, you're shaping your career the way you want it. So again, talking about vision and where you should be, just decide for yourself, or just imagine what you would like to do, and nothing is impossible. You can do anything. As a freelance, you are so flexible. You can choose the customers you want. You can choose the positions you want. You can choose who you want to work with. It's just so cool. if that helps you to make a decision, if you haven't decided yet. But even if you're freelancing for a little while, just think of what exactly you want to do. And the second important thing to that is build connections, talk to people, be genuinely interested in what they do, and think how you can help them. And maybe it's not going to be a paid job, but you can help them by introducing them to someone, or just by suggesting something, like just really being kind and helpful to people, and they will remember you and appreciate that, I guarantee.
Okay, I see Sabrina, our internet this side might not be doing us justice. Sabrina, you are back?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had an internet glitch. Yeah, but I followed through. I had everything in the response of the questions I had asked. Thank you so much for sharing those different perspectives. Andrew, do we have Foster on the call yet? I just wanted to confirm before I proceed.
Someone is handling Foster for me. Edward, I will confirm when he's on.
Oh, all right. So I want to give an opportunity so that this doesn't look like a lecture. I want to give an opportunity to our listeners if they have questions at the moment to ask right away before I ask my like last 2 or 1 questions after, questions and answer. So if you are in the audience and you have any question, you have something you want to learn about, the communities that our dear panelists are heading, how to maybe tap into them, this is the right time for you to ask. Yeah, so you can raise up your hand. Andrew will allow you to speak, or unmute, or type in the comment section, and I'll read out the question. Yeah, so let's use now. Let me see in the meantime if we have anything in the comments. All right.
Maybe while folks are thinking, just want to share one more thing. Africa is considered to be a provider, the biggest provider of workforce to the world. So there are lots and lots of opportunities for you out there to grab, because of, first of all, more affordability of your services. It's, for example, Tongayi mentioned 10, 15 US dollars or whatever currency using there per hour. This is unseen in Europe. Like people here charging much more just because of the tax burden and many other things. So you're very much more competitive comparing with European freelancers, for example, which is bad for us, but very good for you. The thing that you really need to learn is how to work with different cultures, because lots of folks in Europe and US, they may come out as they're still afraid of working with freelancers in Africa, because maybe for because they don't know how to work with you. Maybe they have certain stigmas in terms of quality. Maybe they but I think it's a learning process from both sides. So I would really, really recommend you joining more for European discussions, just to hear how and what is trending and how people work, because there are little nuances that may make a difference for you when you pitch, for example, to clients located in Europe or US, and just to be more on the same stage with them when it comes to conversations. Just this piece of advice I'd like to share.
Thank you so much. It speaks to the question that I had also for the whole for all the panelists, and I think I'll allow all of you to respond to it right after Foster's introduction. I also wanted to know how you manage, for example, the diverse needs and interests of freelancers from different regions, because I understand that your work is happening in, not just one country, two countries, three countries. And like you have said, there are different cultures in these different countries. So as ecosystem leaders, what are you doing to, make sure that these diverse needs and interests are being harmonized? Yeah, so that's a question you will respond to right after Foster's introduction. And Foster, you're welcome on the call. You found when we had given a background of our communities from the Ugandan perspective, from Belgium. Tongayi also gave us a background for Afriblocks and what they are doing. And we've been talking mainly from the perspective of policy. How do we involve the government in supporting the freelance and gig economy? How do we help freelancers become better at what they do? How can they measure and quantify their success? Different kinds of things around that. Yeah, so if you don't mind, you could also give us an introduction of who you are, what communities you've been, a part of, and anything really that you think you don't want to leave here without telling us about the topic. Over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sabrina. Nice to meet you, Elina and Choto. Nice to connect with all of you here on the call. My name is Foster Awintiti Akugri. I am Ghanaian, but I live in Uganda. I'm currently in Accra, though. I lead Africa business for the Innovation Village. Basically, I'm responsible for the expansion of Innovation Village into other markets, as well as strengthening its business in Uganda. I've been part of many communities and also built some communities. Been very active in building Ghana's tech, freelance entrepreneur ecosystem in Ghana since 2012 to where it has gotten to today. I think somewhere about 9 years ago, I founded a foundation called the Qraft Foundation here in Ghana. And it's grown to work across about 12 countries and has over 17,000 members in its community across Africa. It's a community of software engineers, etc., and all of that. We run the largest hackathons in Africa with the likes of IBM, Twitter, Oracle, Microsoft. The list goes on. And we have some of the developers who moved out of these programs and currently work for these companies in the US and Europe. And even within Africa, some of your top 100, top 200, top 300 companies in Africa, like Vodafone, Standard Bank, etc. Community. It's part of building community as well. I supported a revamp of Twitter developer community in Africa prior to Elon Musk's takeover. So in 22 years ago, I'm sure you heard about the Twitter Chat developer launch, developer conference relaunch after they had gone on a break for a long time in San Fran. And there was a competition that was designed for Africa, the Chep Challenge. So this was all part of my work, working with Twitter's expansion team into Africa and also building the relevant community to back it. I always argue that for tech companies, your direct markets, who you sell to is developers. If they don't know about your technology, the enterprises you are targeting to sell to would never know about your technology, because these engineers are basically the experts who recommend the technology stack required to design and develop the tool. So if you're a software engineer here today, or you're a freelancer working in the digital economy, your key role to your organization is knowing as much as possible what exists in the ecosystem, understanding the cultures that drive those product solutions, and how you, not just fully as a technical expert, can also generate revenue from becoming a technical sales expert for these organizations that are looking to penetrate the clients you work for. But as a freelancer, you have direct influence of convincing an organization to acquire technology. That presents you an opportunity on the other side of the ecosystem of selling yourself as a service provider to companies that are looking for salespeople to sell their technology. So every single client you broker to provide freelance services to is a potential client you can convert and earn commissions from for the enterprise company you may be selling a technology for. So the freelance ecosystem is a double-edged sword. It's up to you to understand how you want to play, where you want to play, and how relevant you want to be in the ecosystem. The second thing, which I think Elina highlighted, was around culture. You need to understand how to work with different cultures, different time zones, and all of that. If you take Africa and you dissect Africa into 4 parts, the west of Africa is more assertive, likes to get things done really fast. In east of Africa is less assertive and likes to get things done at a certain pace. In the SADC region, so going towards the south, it has a temperament of culture close to West Africa, sitting in between East and West Africa. When you find yourself in any one of these ecosystems working for organizations there, the chances of you being retained as a freelancer depends on how you understand and adjust to those cultures. You don't say, this is how things are done in my world, and so this is how I would do things. Immediately, you create friction with the team you're working for. And as a freelancer, your job is basically to augment the capacity in an organization. So you don't go butting heads with permanent resources within the organization, trying to prove why you are better than them, or trying to prove why you know what to do, because these guys play a key role and their decisions are listened to better than yours. So for you, in as much as you're offering your skill, it is your means to it's your ends meet. And that means whatever you do to retain that ends meet or pipeline, you do. It means adjusting to the culture. It means adjusting to the time zone. If you live in East Africa and you're on GMT+3 and you choose to work with a company on the East Coast, you are working 8 hours, about 12 hours time difference. You have to be ready to wake up at those times. You don't have an excuse of, oh, where I am is different. It's night here. I can't respond to emails. Why did you accept the job? Right? So these are some basic nuances as a professional freelancer that you need to understand in the future of work. We don't just hire for skill, we hire for character. And in as much as you are coming in as a temporary staff, you have the potential to stay as a consultant with the company for a long time if your character is good. So these will be my opening remarks. I'll hand over to let the conversation go.
Thank you. We love the opening remarks. We really, really love them. And that makes me give you your next question, which you will respond to right after Elina and Choto gets into a discussion on, how they are meeting the diverse needs and interests of different freelancers that they are working with. Now that we have you, Foster, and you are a business expert, I'm going to give you the burden and the task to help us understand from a freelancer's perspective how they can come up with business models. What are like principles that they need to come up with their business models that, help them grow, help them scale, help them become more productive, gain even more clients. What strategies do they need in their businesses? Yeah, that would be a question. For now, I have a question in the comment section, but I'll keep them coming. Let me just have you Choto and Elina respond to diverse needs. Over to you. We'll start with Choto.
Sure, sure. So as Afriblocks, we really make it important that we take care of our clients as well as our freelancers. Because it's very easy, and I've seen it on other platforms, that they prioritize the clients. And when, say, disagreements happen, which they do, sometimes maybe the scope of work, people didn't understand each other, maybe the pricing, maybe the deadlines, maybe the milestones, all of those we prioritize. We try to be fair and make sure, what was, what did you agree on? And at the end of the day, try to reach a resolution. So I think on our platform, we also have project managers that we offer for free. Each and every job that is done on Afriblocks is a project manager assigned to it at no extra cost. We did that to make sure that all jobs and all communication is 100%. To make sure the quality of work that we produce is amazing, to make sure our client reviews are amazing. And as a small startup, you know what happens when you're on a bigger platform? Say, for example, Upwork, and uh, you're a client and you get a bad job done by this freelancer, you probably look for another freelancer on the same platform to fix what the other freelancer did wrong. But if you get a bad job done on our platform, you're not coming back. We are that small. And some people will go as far as saying, I cannot work with African freelancers anymore. So we realized that earlier on, that the work that we're doing, as small as it might be, it also has impact. We are what I think, early in the space of the world starting to work with African freelancers. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we represent well, and to make sure the quality of work, the communication is great. And to balance that out, we have communities like this. We do calls. We have the Freelancers Summit that we've done for the past 3 years, where we bring business people, investors, freelancers, and we talk about everything business and freelancing and everything in between. We also have the Black Blockchain Summit that we do in Washington, D.C. We're a co-host at Howard University. We've been doing that for the past 7 years. So this year will be the 7th year, this September. And right now we're also doing emerging technology classes, a webinar that we do once every month to talk to business people and our clients, and invite them to discuss how they can use emerging technology in their businesses, talk about AI, talk about machine learning and all of that. And there's a model that we had to develop over time. We had to learn that sometimes, businesses need work done, but they're not even sure what they need. So we had to add that project manager to do a discovery call that says, sometimes you get in a call and they say they needed a graphics designer, but what they really wanted was a website developer. Or they needed a web app, but they came in saying, I need a mobile app. But that discovery call helped clear things, and we advised to say, you want an e-commerce store, the options to use WordPress versus Shopify. Yeah, the advantages and disadvantages. So we had built that into our system, so that when the job starts, everyone is clear on what's going to be made. So, talking about examples on how we had to balance out on the client side as well as on the freelancer side, to make sure that at the end of the day, the experience of working with us is as the highest quality and experience possible. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Elina, please.
Yeah, Sabrina, I'd like to ask if you can rephrase that question, because I think I lost it somewhere in between. So just make sure that I answer correctly to what you're asking.
Oh, all right. So the question was, I understand that your communities are not just in like one country, or the people that you have worked with, they are in like several countries. And you already mentioned that different countries, different areas have different cultures, and that from a freelancer perspective and a client, perspective. So the question was, how do you make sure that these different interests, these diverse needs are all catered for in your communities?
Yeah. I don't have a straightaway answer to this because it's an open community. Technically, anyone can join and exchange and learn from each other. And I guess we facilitate that exchange so freelancers can learn from others how things are happening. I mean, Europe is very much connected, so we more or less understand each other very well in terms of cultural background and what is expected. There is certain standard of work that is accepted, and you have to follow, and I think it's a normal scenario regardless of the country you are in, like being responsive, being professional, being polite, like respecting boundaries, like all these things are natural and spread across all the countries and cultures. But just because
Sabrina, can you hear Elina, or it's on my side? Mic check. Sabrina, you can hear Elina?
She's frozen. She's gone off.
Oh, okay. Is Sabrina on the call though?
She has left as well.
Okay. But we can continue. Foster, you had a question that was lined up for you concerning different business models that freelancers can leverage or tap into. I think we can move on to that as they come back on.
So when it comes to being a freelancer, I think it's fundamental. You have a core service or skill you are selling, and you are looking for people to patronize your service. One, how do you position yourself? Two, what's the marketplace where you want to sell your service? Number three, what can you do to strengthen and differentiate yourself from other players? And how can you collaborate with other freelancers to build a better case for a client to hire you? Sometimes it's about capacity. There's opportunity before you requires that you deliver a certain service within a certain time frame, but it's not feasible that you can deliver it on your own within the time frame the client wants. So if you had to win a bid against other people, the easiest way to be able to win that bid against other people is to combine efforts with other freelancers who may also have a track record of being able to deliver a certain level of quality of service, and join forces to present yourself to the client as one force. And that strengthens and gives the client confidence that they'll be able to do it. So these are some of the key things you need to consider. But at the core of it all is, what skill sets do you have to offer? And to retain being a freelancer means having the capacity to also be versatile in terms of the skill sets you have. Because if you are limited by skill sets, then it means you can only sell one thing. At the time when that service, what do you do? Learning back end, front end, quality tester, business analyst, research and development, data entry analyst. Just keep learning, keep building your skill. it is the only market where you can be a jack of all trades and you will still thrive, because it is one-on-one between you and the service and the client who is requesting the service, and not you to many. So it makes it easy for you to be able to sell yourself at any point in time for the specific service that you are being requested for. So that would be my 2 cents on business models and all of that around. And also build profiles on different freelance platforms, upload your portfolio, structure your portfolio very well, request for reference letters from your previous clients if they are willing to offer them. If your platform has a ratings or recommendations section, encourage your clients to use the recommendation sessions to write their recommendations and reviews about the services you offer them, so that you can increase your ratings. The more your ratings go high, the higher you become valuable as a client. If you go to Upwork and other freelance platforms, this is the algorithm that is being used there. The chances of you being put high in a proposal table is very high if you demonstrate a lot of activity and traction on their platform. So you can hack the system by being that guy who gets the reviews and recommendations from their clients every time they finish. The other big thing, customer service. You are a one-man business, but your customer experience is the most critical part of surviving as a business. That means the speed for which you deliver, your turnaround time to answering queries and clarifications from your client. If you are in the service of providing iterations to a certain service, like a graphic designer, a web developer, all of that, your speed to making amendments to requests from your client to a certain work that is in progress is very, very important. I will only go back to a freelancer if I have the best of communication experience from them. Fast, they are always available, always on time, ahead of their timelines and deadlines. Like, you don't need to tell them too much. They just understand you as your client. They understand your expectations and your standards, and they keep delivering and outperforming themselves. That is a freelancer I would keep using, and I will confidently recommend to other people. Most of the time, you guys are all about the money. You take the money, you don't deliver the service. The clients request for a refund or request for changes, and you start to get pissed off. In as much as it's arguable that the client is always right, in freelance, every client matters. Every client retention matters to you, because that is the core of your job. That is your day-to-day business. And you are in the business of making sure your client is happy at all times, putting their needs first, sometimes compensating them, discounting your service just to make up for a bad experience, an incident that you couldn't manage effectively, and all of that. So these are some tips that you need to consider around your business experience, because at the end of the day, it's what will determine your revenue.
I would like to add to that. Sorry, again, I got disconnected, apologies. But Foster, just to what you said about discounts, maybe it's a good thing to keep in mind, but also keep your standing. Like, you don't want to discount right away, and maybe that's the last thing you want to offer. Like, there is still lots of abuse of freelancers, to be honest. I've fallen victim by a client not paying me, and I really don't recommend anyone going that way. It's really painful. When I mentioned about professionalize yourself, is invest in a proper contract. Like, if you acting solo and not via platform, for example, platforms technically take care of that. But if you act in solo, make sure you have a solid contract with the customer, and that you due diligence with the customer, so you know it's a proper company. They will pay you. It's not someone who will run away the next day. Agree on the scope of work up front. Agree how you're going to be swimming before you're swimming. What exactly needs to be delivered and when. And document as much as you can, because then if customer is unhappy, and especially I know it's quite frequent in the creative field or development field where things are unclear, and customer doesn't know what they want, as Tongayi said. You are there actually as a consultant to help them navigate through questions, just to come to the point where you both agree on what needs to be done, and then follow that path with agreed deliverables and stuff like that. And if customer is unhappy, I guess it makes sense to figure out why. So feedbacking is important process in your operations. And then okay, if you see that you actually were right. It's good to lose that customer. It's good to lose customers sometimes who are not like good fit for you, because then you free up space for someone who is a better fit for you. But just don't, don't try to please as many. It just, I know maybe for someone it's the goal to get as many customers as possible, but it's not a happy role to please everyone. Just try to figure out who, like, build relationship. I say it again, because this is how people get to know you. You can explain what you do, because I think also the problem with folks in the tech sector or in creative is that people who are outside of that industry, they don't even know what you do. That's what I feel, especially with new technologies coming up to the world and like all these new features that everyone needs to know. You are the one as a consultant should be able to explain, because it's your line of work. So be as a consultant out there, and actually that's the way for you to build your brand. If you start talking about what you do and more of it and everywhere, people will start recognizing you as an expert. For example, I came across in our community a person joined from Uganda, and he was so, first of all, clear in his introduction about what he does. And what he started doing afterwards, he started featuring his work like on a weekly basis or whatever. He was just dropping things in the chat of the community. And eventually he got spotted by another agency in UK, and they started to work with him directly. And I know that he's super booked, and he's acting directly with the customers via the agencies maybe, but not via the platforms. So that was a very interesting case, and I think it's something that you can learn from it in terms of building your own presence online. And if you're interested, I can share with organizers, and you can also find on our website, freelancebusiness.eu, there is a list of 30 independent communities. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, but you can join these free communities. Just be professional from the start, introduce yourself, like what you're doing, like not being intrusive too much, but very gentle. People will appreciate that. So relationships are the key in any business.
Thank you so much for adding that. Very, very important. Yeah, so now we know that we need to be the experts of what we do, and to know exactly how to like communicate it to other people. And Foster as well, thank you so much for those insights on how to create business models for freelancers. Andrew, there was a question in the comment section, but I don't seem to see the questions now. In case you can pull it up, Stephen had asked something that was to be directed to Elina on taxes. It was something around, she mentioned that taxes are high in Belgium, and then he was recognizing the fact that even in Uganda, the taxes are high. What I didn't get was the other part of it. It was more of like, what steps are you doing?
Yeah, I remember the question. Yeah, I remember the question. So there were, I think a question was, what are the steps to ensure that freelancers are taxed less? I think that was the question. And what we do about it. It's, I would like, what can you do personally about it? You can just hire a good accountant to help you to avoid taxes, but it doesn't work, that well. You still have to follow the law, right? You don't want to do illegal things. In Belgium, the threshold is very low. So as of, I don't know if that would, make a reference, as of 30,000, if you earn more than 30,000 a year, you're already taxed 50%, which is brutal. Like no other country is doing that. And plus you have additional taxes that we have here in Belgium for every single thing except air. So what we can do about it, we actually forming association, a collective voice to address those issues. As alone, freelancers alone can't do anything about it. You just have to follow laws, right? Unless you decide, okay, maybe for me, if you see that your income is already exceeding certain threshold, it's better for you to form a company to optimize the tax, then you can do that. But there's little that you can do alone. It's a collective effort, and that's why I say communities like yours here and many others, if you come together and you start forming a lobbying organization of any sort to protect freelancers' rights, you can achieve some results by doing that.
Thank you so much. I have another question from Anthony. Dear listeners who are in, this is the time for you to bring up your questions. So if you can't unmute and share it, you please feel free to make use of the chat section, and I'll read them out because our call should be ending shortly. If you don't ask now, you may not get another opportunity. But Anthony Alvin Tulibamwe is asking in the comment section that thank you very much, Elina. How can freelancers in Africa build a strong portfolio and attract international clients? Since you said we have a big advantage in providing a labor force.
Yeah. So if you're just starting, for example, in certain field, and you don't have prior experience which you can showcase in your portfolio, then I would advise maybe spend like a few months, and you decide how many months you want to spend on that, doing volunteering work, only for the purpose of building a portfolio. And by doing that, you reach out to the brands that you want to have in your portfolio. And say, hey, would you like me to do certain work for you? For testimonial, for example, if you want to collect those. So it's a little bit of investment up front to your future contracts. I know it's very sexy for clients to see all the big logos. It just psychologically works all the time, but it's not necessarily that you need to have them. For example, if you're focusing and if you would like to enter the field of, SaaS, for example, fintech, whatever industry you take, create a list of potential places that you and potential contacts that you would like to reach out and ask for simple work that you can do for them. I think. Or maybe try platform work. I'm not a big fan of it. That's why I'm not promoting it too much. Sorry guys, if anyone is offended, not my intention, but I just find it very tricky. But even though, who knows, maybe that can work for you. So you can definitely try that. Another way to go about it is to talk to your network. For example, the way I departed from my work is with the confidence that I'm going to have a good freelancing start is because I was speaking to potential customers while still working. And the moment I realized that, yes, people are interested in working with me directly, I made the switch. So that's also one of the ways. And then how to reach out international clients. Well, again, communities is a big help. LinkedIn is a huge pool of potential projects. So definitely keep your LinkedIn profile up to date and like professional once again. I don't know what else can I say here. And, communities like the one Tongayi is having and Foster is absolutely great help for that.
Thank you so much. Are you still speaking, Elina? I don't seem to hear you.
She finished.
All right.
Your network.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done on that question.
All right. Thank you so much. The next question goes to you as well, but I want to send it to the other panelists because I know, and to also give you time to breathe in and out. But you can also feel free to jump in and add in because I know it's a question that applies to everyone, all the panelists that we have. Someone is talking about investing in like proper contracting, and they're asking what criteria can one use to build a proper contract as a freelancer. I don't know, Foster, if you have contracted with anyone before, and Choto and Elina, I could maybe give both you, when it's two people, both when it's 3. I don't know. I could give all of you a chance, maybe a minute or so, to share what your criteria has been while contracting, or what you think is the best criteria for freelancers. I'll start with Choto, then Foster, then Elina. Since the question was yours. Hello, can I be heard?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question.
Oh, okay. The question is about contracting. How do you make a proper contract as a freelancer? What criteria should you undertake or have in mind when you're contracting with a company or an organization, anyone really?
Yeah, so I think it takes a while to develop the best contract, and still it might have some loopholes, but the best thing to do is to make sure the fundamentals are covered in terms of what needs to be done. So I think there are clients that will come to you and say, I need a website done by tomorrow, and I need this, and a website that talks to people in ChatGPT. Now the description is not clear always, and it's easy for a freelancer because you want the money to try to make it simpler and take the job, and yet you don't really understand the scope of work. So it's important to make sure you understand the scope of work. That's one. Two, you understand the timelines on when the work should be done, and be honest with yourself. Can I meet these timelines and deadlines and milestones? Always make sure the catch-up calls. If a project is 3 months, try to meet at least once every week to say, hey, this is where I am. Is this the direction that you had in mind? Because sometimes for founders or for non-techie people, it might be difficult to portray what they have in mind. So don't ever assume that what you're building is exactly what the client requested. So catch-up calls and communication are the best. For software development, it's always good to have UI UX design done first. Wireframes, because they take less time. Show them this is the workflow, is this what you had in mind? And if they say yes, now you put that into the proposal or the contract. This is what we agreed on this date that you need built. So it's not something that you just do once when you sign the contract. It's something that's consistent. You might reach a point where they're asking you to add a map, and then you guys know very well you never talked about a map. You just go back to what? To that proposal. Hey, these are the features that we talked about. Be respectful about it. A map was not one of them, but I understand if you now need it, this is the time and the cost implication about it. So it's very easy for freelancers to skip the process of having a contract that has all the features needed, all the descriptions of the project, all the timelines and the costing are listed. But it's a very important piece because in future we are human beings. We are from different backgrounds, sometimes different languages. It's prone to happen that you might have misunderstood, but if it's written down, that takes away a lot of potential challenges that you might have because of not making sure before you start a project you're on the same page. So I think that's the best way to do it. Before you start a project, make sure you understand for your own sake, and make sure the client understands what they want you to build. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Foster, your opinion on that as well.
I think they've highlighted some key things. Maybe my addition would be understanding the type of projects, like Choto mentioned, because they are intellectual property that you end up generating out of this. One other key thing you want to understand is Is the IP going to be fully owned by the client, and is the value they are paying for the IP you are generating worth it? If it is not, you can contract in such a way that you retain the intellectual property of the artifact you are designing or producing for them. And then if they want to wholly buy and own the solution, then you can trigger a clause that requires them to pay you a certain value to take full ownership and rights of the production of the produce. The other thing you need to consider in contracting is indemnity. Make sure you are indemnified or negotiate what indemnity would mean to indemnify you or protect you from any potential risk or loss, financial risks or losses that may be incurred in the course of executing the mandate for the client. Maybe you want to choose a certain technology that crept heavy cost on the client than what you projected would cost the client, for example, server. So these are basic things that you want to make sure that you are protecting yourself from through the contract and making sure provisions are accounted for. Always, 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 if you have a friend who is a lawyer, please run any contract you sign or any contract you are given to the lawyer to review before you sign. In summary, seek second opinion, seek a second eye, think about the transaction thoroughly and what it means. Always look out for exclusivity clauses, IP ownership clauses, and indemnity clauses as well. These are very, very important components. And also look out for penalty clauses. If you delay in delivering, sometimes they may put a clause in there that will trigger every time you delay the deadline by a day or two, you start to be charged 1%, 2% of the total project fee, due to be deducted from the total fee that you are expected to receive. So these sometimes are creative ways clients would hide things to protect themselves against certain actions that you may take. And it's usually from precedence. If I got bent in my last freelancer's contract, I want to protect myself better by learning from that mistake. If you also got bent by a client, you also want to make sure there's a provision in there that protects you from a potential scenario you may have experienced before. So you keep evolving this contract until you get to a point where you think you have a foolproof contract that can indemnify you or protect you from any potential hazard or risk in executing the mandate with the client. I think those would be my 2 cents. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Foster. I can see Massa Godfrey, who asked the question, clapping hands. Yeah, that means he has appreciated. Elina, if you have any addition, you can also add, but we have Andrew's hand. He also seems to have a question. Elina, after you, Andrew, you can answer your question, and then, yeah, we see how it turned out to close.
Yeah. Well, very quickly on contracts, just to add what haven't been said, you can have a template and maybe communities can help to create this template, which can be quite standardized with all the protection clauses in it. And then you add addendum, which will describe your project, because recreating contract every single time for new clients is a bit challenging. So you just have that. If you have opportunity to use your contract, would be great. Quite frequently, you have to accept the contract that client is proposing you. So then you just need to know what sort of limitations they put on you there and what sort of blocks you can negotiate with it.
All right, thank you so much for that. Andrew, allow me ask the question in the comment section so that Mr. Choto prepares for it, and then you will ask your question right after. So there's a question for you, Mr. Choto, and this person, Massa, is saying that you talked about writing a cover letter as you a cover letter, and he's asking, can you advise, how can you advise a fresh graduate to effectively write a cover letter? What criteria should a fresh graduate follow? Yeah, that's your question. I will have Andrew ask his question as well, and whoever the question is directed to, they can go ahead and answer it. And then we prepare to have the parting shots and call it a night or a day regarding wherever you are. Over to you, Andrew.
Yeah, so my question is around the insights that Choto and Elina have been able to pick, because I'm very much aware that they have done a survey and they have reports, both Afriblocks and freelance business community. Maybe what has stood out, which insights are in there that we could benefit from, what opportunities do you see, something around that. And then on the same note, maybe for Foster, if we are doing a survey and we are planning to come up with a report from the Ugandan freelance business market, what would you want to see in that report? Yeah, that's my question. It's around insights that Choto and Elina have been able to find out.
Thank you very much for your question. I think to answer the last question around insights, what I would love to see if I was in the business of using freelancers is understanding the types of freelancers in your market. What are the dominant freelance skills in your market? What's their proficiency in terms of skills? What's the average market, the minimum and the maximum in terms of range of compensation in your market, as well as where is the inbound coming from into the market? Are people sourcing the talent locally, or are there a lot of offshore inbound requests coming into that particular market? So understanding those demographics helps me make an informed decision around, and then technology, language proficiency are also very, very important, as well as yeah, I think I've talked about wages in terms of range of the cost of the talent in those markets. So I think those would be very big decisions, big factors I would want to see to consider making a decision sourcing from Uganda.
Well, my side, well, the most profound insights that I was surprised to see throughout our research, well, first of all, that connections matter. Then the personal network is super important. I mentioned that already. That freelancers are highly educated. So these are the people with university degree, and freelancing is the career choice, not that they just, became freelancers for any other reason. It's been a deliberate choice of them. What I also found interesting to discover, and again, it's probably related to geography, is that we're less likely turning to platforms to find works for that reason. And I know it's different for different other countries, and I know Africa is probably more reliant on platform work than Europe because of certain things. But I think you also have a great benefit in terms of bringing diversity to the tables and to the teams of companies. We spoke about diversity a little bit, but this is just another angle, because more and more companies and organizations are taking it seriously. They want to have representation of many cultural backgrounds and geographies represented, and you potentially can cover that gap. So, having all these benefits in your hands and understanding what you can bring to the company is a great additional benefit that you have to be aware of. And definitely don't hesitate to reach out and propose yourself as potential candidates for certain roles.
Yeah, great. So the question on my end around the cover letter. So tips that I've seen, always make sure you read the job description. Once you read the job description, create a response that's answering to that. A mistake that some freelancers make is to have generic templates that you use to respond to almost every job. So you have templates that you have written, and then when every other job comes in, you just copy paste and maybe change the name. that's not good enough. And then the third thing I'll say is keep the cover letter short. No one is going to read 4 or 5 pages. Keep it short, because what you're trying to do is to get someone to respond to you, schedule a call, or at least view your profile. And then the final thing is to ask a question within that cover letter. So someone is saying, no, I need a website done. You respond, I can do this. I've done these examples. The question that I had for you is, do you have an example of the look and feel for a website, or do you have a design, or will be starting from scratch? Now that prompts that person to have to respond to you. But what you have done is you've created engagement. So those are the 5 top things that I'll say. And I'll say these are not just for fresh graduates, these are for everyone. Keep it short, answer what the client is responding about, show your experience, and then ask a question within that cover letter that shows that you've read and you understand, and now you're looking for engagement. And I also always try to take someone away from the email to an actual call, because you always talk more and better understand and engage more when you're actually talking to someone as opposed to writing down, because sometimes some expressions or some explanations might be lost in writing. Again, we have people from different cultures, and that's not to be taken lightly, because sometimes you say educational institutions, someone says colleges. So now the understanding that you think you're portraying when you're writing might be different for someone to understand. Thanks.
Insights from the survey you did, Tongayi, in Zimbabwe, the Afriblocks report?
Oh yeah, we do an annual Africa in the Future of Work report. We've done it for the past 3 years. So if you go on our website, and at the bottom there, Future of Work reports, you'll be able to download them for free. We have collaborated with different people from across the world, people from Salesforce, LinkedIn Navigator, Google Africa, to come up with these reports. So these will be super helpful for someone who wants to learn about Africa and the future of work and the trends and the trending jobs, the trending, topics that might come up within the next 5 to 10 years, and trends in general. So yeah, on our site, afriblocks.com, go to the bottom, you see future of work reports, and under our publications. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Do we still have Foster? Andrew, do we have Foster on the call?
No, I think his network is off.
Oh, all right. Yeah, so I think really I don't want us to take so much time. I want to take this opportunity to thank our panelists. Unless there's anything else, Andrew, that you would like to add, I would like to have our panelists give the parting shots. I believe they have responded to the questions that have been asked. And I don't know if you've shared the WhatsApp group yet in the comment section, but I urge everyone on the call right now to join our WhatsApp group. We have an access to finance, offering that we are giving out very soon. It's basically loans, and we are looking for like a few people to start with for the pilot. So you could apply. We should be able to bring an application up by the end of the week or by Monday, and you can apply to be on the first people that we work out the pilot with. Then also, we are also launching a micro medical insurance package for our freelancers. also very soon, maybe in like 2 weeks or so. So just keep up with us really. Stay on the WhatsApp group, join our community, attend our events. You should be able to enjoy those benefits very soon. Yeah. So Elina, I see you're the one that we have. You could give us your parting shots.
Well, sorry, to give what?
Closing remarks.
Oh, closing.
Yeah, closing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. No, it's been my pleasure. I really like talking about freelancing, how it can improve life and, you know, provide opportunities that we haven't seen as being employed. So if I can help anyhow, please feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. I do share a few things about freelance economy there from time to time. And yeah, if any questions, happy to answer them there as well. But I think the most important is you're in the business, so you have to act as a businessman or woman. Be professional. We spoke about it already, and just try to get the best out of it. It's never a straight line. It's going to be up and down, but don't get discouraged because that's how it is. You know, it's not a stability of employment that we have. It's something that we have to create ourselves and maintain ourselves. And I guess communities like this one can help also to get certain things covered. Like I heard right now, some products are being launched soon, so that's fantastic. And I love these things happening more and more because we do need to talk to each other and share our experiences, and that's how we can elevate the freelance economy altogether in entire planet. So enjoy this, and happy to connect with you all.
Thank you so much. Happy to connect with you too. Thank you for sharing us with us insightful information. I believe that the listeners were taking notes. They always share what they have learned on our community communication platform, and Andrew will probably let you know some of the things that they will say afterwards. Andrew, I think that will be it from me. I will hand over to you. It's been a pleasure being the moderator for this fireside chat. Nice meeting you, Elina.
Thanks a lot, Sabrina.
Yeah.
I think we'll come to the end of everything. This is the last day, last hour, last minute, last second. Thank you, Elina, for coming. Elina even inspired the whole month. You guys might not know, but she's the reason why we are having all these things. And she has closed in style. Thank you so much, everyone. I think that's it. Thank you for attending for 4 weeks. It's been very beautiful. Let's keep in touch. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.